Celeste is a popular indie game released in 2018, but you already know that. In fact, I am pretty sure that you already know what Celeste is about and what subject the game covers. Therefore, I'm gonna skip this part for you, and I'm gonna talk about the community that blooms around Celeste. Some might even argue that it became a core part of Celeste as a whole, and they would probably be right. I am of course talking about the modding scene of Celeste. Whether it's custom maps, skins, game modifiers, you will find what you're looking for thanks to this amazing community. But today, I am not gonna focus about the known aspects of custom maps, its bright side. I am gonna shine a light on its obscure parts, some mods you may have never heard of before, but that will leave an impact on you. Today, I want to talk about some of the lesser known, yet most obscure Celeste mods. Before the video starts, however, I want to clarify some trigger warnings for this video. If you are sensitive to topics like self-harm, suicide, depression, sexual assault, religion, violence, and semi-disturbing imagery, I strongly advise you to click off this video. But now, it is time for us to dive into the abyss of Celeste maps. Abyss is by far the most famous map of this video, with over 2.6k downloads. I strongly advise you to play this map before watching this, just like for every other map in this video actually. The map's difficulty goes up to mid-expert, which led me to believe I wouldn't be able to beat it, as my best clear was high advanced. I enabled assist mode just in case, but I didn't need to use it as I somehow managed to beat this map. This may seem like an out-of-place anecdote, but the fact that I kept on pushing even when it seemed impossible will make more sense later. When entering the map, you will directly be struck by the eerie atmosphere that is already starting to be felt. Furthermore, you will notice that you cannot dash. The map will be dashless, which is often associated with difficulty and unforgiving gameplay. After navigating through the first two rooms, you will be met with the only way the map will be conveying its message. This being displaying text on the screen. There is no dialogue, no cutscenes, only text. You will barely see these words at first, being more visible as you get closer to them, but disappearing quickly as you breeze through the first rooms of the chapter. However, we can already see what this map will be about thanks to these first few sentences. Why do they want to do it? What does it feel like? Does it hurt? How do they do it? Where do they go? Do they feel irrelevant? Do they hate others? Do they just hate themselves? Wouldn't it be easier? Firstly, we can remark that the only sentences of this chapter are interrogative. The narrator is definitely questioning something. And we can figure out that what the narrator is referring to is suicide or self-harm. However, they only seem to be wondering about other people's motives and what they could possibly feel. Until the last sentence. Wouldn't it be easier? Here, the narrator could hint at maybe considering hurting themselves, when nothing seems to be acted or decided. So right now, we can only move on to the next chapter. In the second chapter, named Sunset, the atmosphere is brutally different from the last chapter. We can see a more colorful background and foreground, mostly yellow and orange, just like, well, a sunset. The difficulty starts wrapping up in this chapter, but nothing very challenging for now. The most important thing about this chapter is that nothing is said, no text, nothing. Only a peaceful atmosphere. Probably a sign that things are getting better, that the ideas are gone and that nothing bad will happen. Or it could just be the calm before the storm. But finally, there's nothing much to do now other than moving on to the next chapter. The next chapter is named Countryside. It takes place during nighttime, after the sunset. The colors are still bright and the atmosphere is still peaceful. But even though the ambience seems to be good and reconforting, the night has taken over, the darkness prevails. The narrator seems to be as captivated as us by the scenery. What a beautiful night it is! Faint snow, cold breeze, shooting stars. Should I wish for something? Maybe it will finally happen. For the majority of the chapter, a strong sense of hope is portrayed by the narrator, a wish for something better. I would interpret it as if the narrator was moving on from the desire of death implied by the first chapter. I see a hope for a better life, perhaps a better future, but holding on to the idea that it will get better eventually. But this interpretation gets crushed by the last words of the chapter. I wish someone loved me. I wish I wasn't alone. The narrator starts opening up to us. They seem to feel a deep sense of loneliness. They are left alone with their own thoughts, their own problems, maybe having nobody to rely on when they are feeling low. All of that leads to them wishing for their problems to be solved. This is a desperate call for help. This wish can be seen as the only way for them to find hope. They seem trapped in their loneliness, crying but not hurt. Maybe the stars will listen. For now, we can just move on to the next chapter and hope for the best. The fourth chapter is named City. This name indicates a direct contradiction with the last chapter, Countryside. But we have yet to see if it's for the best or the worst. This doubt is quickly erased by the first sentence of the chapter, that we see as soon as we get there. Why do I keep doing this to myself? The narrator seems to be blaming themselves for their loneliness, their desperation. There is no hope anymore, just doubt. We cannot think that everything might get better anymore, only that it might not get any worse. But before having a chance at seeing the rest of the story, we can notice a spike in difficulty in gameplay. From now on, everything will get more difficult, each step taking longer and longer. The second thing we notice is the atmosphere of the chapter. It's very beautiful, reminiscent of the previous chapter, but this time much darker, except for a few lampposts. As if the darkness took over that last bit of hope, and now the only thing left is an almost eternal and excruciating pain, never stopping and taking all of their time. This feeling is further amplified by the difficulty of the gameplay from there onwards. As we go further into the chapter, we can piece this monologue. Why do I keep doing this to myself? It's never gonna come true, is it? How can I be so naive? To think they actually care. At least the lights are still shining. Even though there is less content in this chapter, the depiction of the narrator's mental health is still very clear and striking. The structure of each sentence is the one of a question, except for the absence of question marks, which could mean the questions are purely rhetorical, thus indicating that the narrator isn't looking for answers anymore. This comes to support the idea that this chapter is like a distant memory of the one before it, a memory that was destroyed by the weight of their own thoughts. The only thing left is the light from the lampposts. They are still shining. They're a representation of the last sliver of hope the narrator still has. But then comes the last chapter, named Abyss. We get teleported into a place reminiscent of the very first chapter, almost like a throwback to the very beginning. The atmosphere is extremely heavy. The graphics start to become distorted, and we are immediately met with a sentence. They're fading. We can already assume the worst. If the light, the last sliver of hope, is fading, what is left? Probably nothing. Here, we are back at the beginning. This is where everything started, with the first questions about suicide, and most importantly, this is the last chapter. This is where everything will end. This chapter is very short, and each room features one or two sentences, except for the last gameplay room, where there's nothing. The monologue reads, "They're fading. I'm fading. Best to end it quick. I hope it's fast and painless." I do not have much to say, except that this is the end. There's no hope, no fish, no light, no questions. These rooms are the hardest of the entire map. They take way longer than the other ones. It contradicts directly with the desire to end it quick. This is just slow and painful, the opposite of what the narrator wanted. After beating every room, we are met with one final path, with the narrator's last words. Let's finish this journey into the abyss. We are now next to a broken lamppost, the symbol of the narrator's destroyed hope, and we can only do one thing. Jump. This map is very intense in emotions, and I would like to do a global commentary of it, starting with my personal struggle when playing the map. You see, my previous hardest map beaten was of high advanced difficulty. However, this map is mid-expert. I already said that in the beginning, but I didn't think I would be able to beat it. But I did. What I am trying to say is that this map is portraying depression. And I decided to keep going, fight until the end, but the finality was still the same. I died. Furthermore, I believe this map paints a great portrait of the way depression can slowly destroy someone's life. A slow and painful descent. And sometimes we can try as hard as we can, but alone we are defeated by depression. There was no other outcome in this map. Now I would like to talk about a very important aspect of the map that I purposefully omitted when talking about it. The music. The music is rather calm and peaceful at the beginning, but slowly turns melancholic, and finally, it becomes aggressive, almost incoherent, until the last room before death, where there is no music, only the narrator's final thoughts before the jump. This leads me to believe that we don't play to see what the narrator has to say, but rather the opposite. The narrator uses our gameplay to express what they feel, if that makes sense to some of you. Furthermore, I would like to note again how the gameplay really relates to the theme of the map. It's dashless, the pacing is quite slow, difficult and even painful at times, just like depression. However, the last room is easy, very quick, no obstacle, there is not a single thought about others anymore, and the end is instant and not painful at all, because after, there's nothing else to do, so map meets its end, and so does our life. Finally, I would like to say that, honestly, when going into this map, I didn't expect it to be that heavy and full of scents and details. This was honestly a great experience. But there's no time for us to breathe because the next map is the darkest map of this video and is how I got the idea to make this video in the first place. Repentance was downloaded a little bit more than 100 times, and before looking at the map, let me tell you a story. I found this map in a rather unconventional way, and I don't know if I found this map or if this map found me. You see, in October 2025, I was using the Celeste Endless website to find new maps to play, and the 20th map I found was Repentance. I of course played this map, and the experience of playing it is something I will never forget. For this video, I had to recreate my first playthrough of the map, if I can even call it a map. This part will be more personal and will feature my point of view and thoughts all throughout the map. But now I have no choice but to dive back into this map. When first opening the Game Banana page for Repentance, I see a lot of censored text. But first, I learned that the map will contain Kevin blocks and that I will be able to answer a survey. I don't really know what that means yet, so I'll just continue reading the description. And I am met with a lot of trigger warnings. But I'll decide to continue with this map. This is all there is to extract from this description for now, since the author tells us to not read the last paragraph unless we beat the map first. So now, I'll just have to dive into this map. The chapter I play is named Anger. Before entering the map, I am reminded once again of the trigger warning. Even though that seems unsettling, I still decide to continue playing this map. The first two rooms are just some very basic Kevin block gameplay, but in the third room we find the crystal heart. Could this already be the end of the map? No. As I reach the middle of the room, I am met with a cutscene. The survey the description talks about. I guess I'll answer this survey so I can finish this map. Thank you for playing the map. If you're interested, please complete this survey. Do you want to participate? Yes. Thank you for participating in the survey. Please answer each question honestly to the best of your ability. I'll make sure to do that. This survey is anonymous. None of your answers will be shared. Do you understand? Yes. How many times did you die while playing this map? 0. Did you enjoy the mechanics of this map? Yes. Do you enjoy this map? Yes. How likely are you to recommend this map to other players? Somewhat likely. What difficulty would you rate this map? Beginner. Do you intend to collect the heart? Yes. Did you feel any anger while playing this map? No. Noted. The survey has been updated based on your responses. Please remember that the survey is anonymous. Your answers will not be shared. Do you wish to continue? Yes. I didn't expect to get these questions. Why are they here in the first place? What is the point of all of this? Maybe I'll find out by going further into this. Are you religious? Not at all religious. What is your gender? Female. Do you hate this map? No. Do you hate anyone? No. Do you believe in God? No. Do you love anyone? Yes. Noted. The survey has been updated based on our responses. Please remember that the survey is anonymous. Your answers will not be seen. What was that? Why did the questions get so personal all of a sudden? All of this is starting to make me uncomfortable, but I'm sure it's nearly the end. A few more questions and I'll be able to finish this map. Wait, I thought my questions were supposed to not be shared. Why did it change? Whatever, as long as I'm not seen, why should I worry? Do you wish to continue? Yes. Have you ever thought of hurting yourself? Yes. Have you ever thought of hurting others? No. Would you consider hurting someone in self-defense? Yes. Is it morally acceptable to kill someone who has killed others? No. How likely are you to hurt someone if they hurt you? Somewhat unlikely. Have you ever considered suicide? Yes. Please do not move. The survey has been updated based on your responses. Please remember that the survey is anonymous. Your answers... What is happening? Why do I keep answering these questions? It's getting personal. I'm really getting unwell. Why do I have to rethink about all of that? I need a moment to realize what's happening. I'll just pause the game for a few seconds. Wait, I can't pause the game. I'm stuck in here. There's no escaping. I don't want to stop. I just want to get to the bottom of this. There's no coming back. It's just a map after all. Nothing bad will happen. Surely. Do you wish to continue? Yes. It is morally acceptable to kill someone who has committed a sexual crime. Disagree. Wait, these aren't even questions anymore. It is morally acceptable to use violence as a means of social upheaval. Strongly disagree. It is morally acceptable to use lethal injection for executions. Strongly disagree. Have you ever killed someone? No. The survey has been updated. Please remember that the survey is anonymous. What is it even about now? On one hand, I feel relieved that the questions are less personal, but on the other hand, I'm just disturbed at the nature of the questions. For how long is it gonna keep going, and how far will it go? I'm not uncomfortable anymore, I'm just desensitized to these questions now. I'm ready to face the next ones. Or at least I hope I am. It is morally acceptable to kill a child. Strongly disagree. Wait, I'm not even asked if I want to continue. I don't think there's any coming back now. It is morally acceptable to murder by strangulation such as you are unseen. Strongly disagree. It is morally acceptable to kill yourself after committing murder. Strongly disagree. It is morally acceptable to kill based on race, gender, or sexual orientation. Strongly disagree. It is morally acceptable to kill someone if you don't like them. Strongly disagree. It is morally acceptable to force a 13-year-old girl to carry their baby to term. Strongly disagree. It is morally acceptable to kill an infant using a rock of moss hardness 8 or greater. Strongly disagree. The survey has been updated. Please remember that the survey is not anonymous and that you are being watched. I think I know where these questions are going. Everything is debatable, yet one would think that the answer is very simple. Everything that was said definitely already happened, and there are definitely people that tried defending that. What an awful world we live in. Wait, what do you mean the survey is not? Where am I? The music's just changed. What is happening? If you kill someone, will you go to heaven? No. Is hell real? No. Is it true that no matter what heinous sins they commit in life, everyone deserves to be happy so long that they apologize for their actions? No. But that's the way it is. There's not multiple choices anymore. Is it really a survey? What is this about? Does that fact fill you with vitriolic anger so deep that you wish you could pull the cruel maker of this world down to earth and show him the suffering he has, albeit unintentionally created? Yes! Are you infuriated by the fact that even though the most vile people are saved, the simple act of questioning this insanity is the one act that will cast you into eternal torture? Yes! How angry do you feel? So angry that I don't want to breathe. The survey has been updated. Please answer one final question. If a mere apology is enough to get you in, do you still want to go to heaven? No. The survey has been updated. You're a good person. Thank you for your time. And this is how the map ends. I just die. I love this map. At the very beginning, we can already feel the disturbing atmosphere of the map, but not in a way that prepares us in any way to what is about to happen. The pacing of this survey is wonderfully executed. You know at first glance that something is off, but you only realize what you might have gotten yourself into after a while. Long enough that you don't want to go back even though you still can. Even though I realized it before, you will probably realize when getting closer to the end of the survey, when you don't have a choice but to continue answering, that you cannot pause during the survey. You are now trapped in this survey and this feeling is really reinforced when towards the end, you can't choose your answers anymore. I also want to talk about the pacing of the map. At the beginning, the questions are simple, so answering will be relatively fast. But as you continue, the questions get more sensitive and more sensible, and you need much more time to really reflect on your answer before choosing it. This adds to the heavy atmosphere and the feeling of being trapped eternally in this map. Indeed, what starts as a simple map with curving blocks soon turns into an existential nightmare as you try to question morality in its core. But before going further, I would like to talk about the song we hear towards the end of the map. The song is named No Longer and was made by Six Impala. Even though at first it just seems like an eerie song without much sense, it isn't really that simple. If we look at the lyrics of the song, we see a message about death, and of course, this relates to the map, and even though there isn't that much to say about it, it's still a very nice detail. This map makes you look at faces of reality you would otherwise not always want to see. It openly talks about the worst of acts and makes you realize that in the eyes of some people, it's almost okay since the simplest of words could, in a way, erase the monstrosity of some people in the name of something you never saw. It puts into perspective the beliefs and the narrative of certain ideologies and questions the credibility of being able to commit the absolute worst of crimes but being forgiven because you just apologized, even though the actions cannot be undone. And the fact that questioning this narrative will make you seem as the worst person in the eyes of those same people, even though you didn't hurt anybody, seems disgusting to me. In the survey, everything gets worse and worse in the questions asked, until it becomes nearly unbearable, but the only moment of relief you will have in the end. You are a good person is the only recognition of your sense of moral you will have. And after that, the map ends in a death. There is no afterlife, nothing you can say will impact the finality, so why should we forgive the people that committed the worst? I am gonna go on a bit of a rant here, so sorry in advance. However, if criminals almost don't pay for their actions on Earth, nor in hell if you believe in it, and they will die like everybody else, why forgive them without questioning anything? Don't get me wrong, I do believe that people can be forgiven for what they've done, even after some quite horrible crimes. There are still exceptions though. But it shouldn't be from just apologizing one time or making a promise to a divinity. In my opinion, it should be from doing your time in prison, or of course it is an entirely different story if someone was in prison wrongfully, and redeeming yourself by becoming a better person. It's not gonna happen instantly, but what you've done can never be undone. But you shouldn't be forgiven because someone with religious power said so, but because people genuinely see that you've changed for the best. Alright, this rant is now done, and I hope what I said made some sense, but let's move on with my interpretation of this map. Obviously, the map tackles a religious theme, but the vision of religion the creator has seems clear and well argued, using your own moral to portray this message. Even though some questions only have one answer, the survey does not make you say anything. It only made you express the anger you were intentionally or unintentionally omitting. It made you admit that the world we live in is, in fact, horrible. But it also shows that we are defenseless against this fact. We cannot do anything to change that, so we just live and die, and nothing ever changes. As much as we can try to question or understand this insanity, we are further dragged into the hell of our reality. The survey says we are a good person, but what for? It's not like it changes anything in the end, so we might as well become an horrible person. The only thing stopping us is our own moral. Do you want to give it up? I'm repeating myself, but I hope everything I said made some sense. And now I'm gonna move on to the next part of my analysis. And for that I will need to replay the map. This time I'll become a villain. And I will first answer the questions randomly, but then, when the survey gets more serious, I will give the worst answers on a moral standpoint and see what will happen. Well, that's disappointing. I'm still a good person. So, I don't know if that's not intentional or if this is the way the creator intended the message to be delivered. But if that's the case, then I could see this as a message that no matter how horrible you are, you're still a good person in the eyes of someone. And that moral doesn't have any sense if religion is what decides what is wrong or right. From this second playthrough, I also discovered that you can end the survey when answering no when asked if you wish to continue. It results in a cutscene ending and the map becoming unbeatable, and you just have to restart the chapter if you want to take the survey again. I also noticed that you can actually pause the game when you are outside of the survey. Now, there is one last thing I want to try before reading the censored part of the Game Banana page, which is to try to collect the crystal hearts we are shown. It is normally inaccessible, but by enabling Assist Mod to have infinite dashes, we can try to see what happens when you collect it. Well, I didn't expect that. The map just ends and we gain a crystal heart. There's nothing else to say, so let's just go back to the Game Banana page. It reads, I went into this map to make a bit of a horror type thing, but I ended up going down the dark path in my mind. I have always been a bit put off by the idea that in many religions, as long as you confess your sins or apologize or regret them, then you can be sent into heaven. Even the awful, horrid people in this world get to go, no matter what they've done. And on top of that, to question God or commit blasphemy against the Holy Spirit is the only sin that sends you to hell? That doesn't seem right to me. While I was writing, I ended up exploring this weird feeling. Some of the text is a bit extreme, I know, but it's not out of the realm of possibility for forgiveness. How is that okay? How do the sexual criminals and murderers get to go to heaven while people who merely question God are sent to hell? It's thoughts like these that make me question the religion that much of my family believes in. I was never such a big fan of it myself. I completely understand the point of view and the reasoning behind the creation of this map according to them. They deliver the message and meaning of the map very well. And I don't think there was anything better to conclude this part than the words of the creators themselves. Now, let's move on to the last map. This one is the least quote-unquote famous one of the video, having been downloaded about 70 times. The map is named Sky High Summit. It is technically the fourth map of a series of maps. But I've decided to only talk about this one since I think it's the one that fits his videos the best. The lore of the last three maps tells us that we are researchers for a certain Madame Rudy. We need to collect crystal hearts for the researches. There are other things in these maps, but nothing that adds much to the map and our understanding of it. This map really stands out compared to the other ones in this video. In fact, here, the themes tackled are not really sensitive topics. Rather, the main disturbing part of this map is its graphics and music. Of course, it all depends on one's sensitivity and own vision. I won't be judging anyone. In fact, the map is really dark, to the point where figuring out where some walls or platforms are located is a struggle of its own. The music also comes amplifying the eerie atmosphere of the map. It's quite chaotic, just like the gameplay. It's hard to figure out what it means, what to do, and finding some sense in it. And also the music is very loud. The volume has been turned down while editing because it's just annoying. I don't believe it was intentional. After navigating through the first few rooms, we will meet the nightmarish creature that convinced me to put this map in this video. This is an archangel, and in case you don't know what that is, it's basically a greater angel, above the ordinary ones in the Bible. This is important. This sets a certain religious theme to the map, which will be important later on. During our first encounter with the archangel, the creature will just scream that they desire to become omniscient, which does make sense as they are not omniscient but are still supposed to show the path to salvation. This leaves me wondering, can archangels really accomplish their mission, which is to show one's path to salvation, if they do not know everything? I'm keeping this question aside for now and I will keep playing the map. Our second encounter with the Archangel teaches us more about this story. Apart from Madeline roasting the creature, we notice that it's still very aggressive. All of its dialogue is in uppercase, as if it was screaming at us. But most importantly, we learn about the Archangel's mission, which we already determined before. It wants to show everyone their path, claiming to be able to see everything and that we cannot understand it. It also claims that people are making bad decisions that they regret since they don't know everything, but according to it, nothing would have happened if it was able to act upon it, if it was able to quote-unquote help people. Madeline then questions the Archangel's plan, doubting that setting up everyone's entire lives would be a good idea. To that, the creature doubles down. It states that it is its mission, its promise to blank, possibly God. It seems trapped in this ideology, unable to change anything. Madeline then questions again this idea, claiming that a life without uncertainty would be boring and uninteresting. The creature then puts an end to the conversation, flying away without any explanation. What I would like to note from this cutscene is the fragility of the Archangel's argument. From what I understand from my research, Archangels are not omniscient, and if that's the case, then how and why would the Archangel be able to make decisions for others better than the people themselves? The goal of an Archangel is supposed to be showing a path to salvation, not rewriting your entire life. Anyways, let's move on. At this moment, the music changes entirely, for a calmer music. The song played is The Moon We Sing by the Cranewise. This choice is very interesting and very coherent with the map. Indeed, the song could be interpreted as a metaphor of what a child could feel when having a parent forcing a path or a future upon them. It symbolizes the one-sided love of the situation. A child loves their parents unconditionally, and their parents are supposed to do the same. However, by forcing a future upon their child when they don't want it, they completely break the visions a child can have of their parents' love, even if the parents don't mean harm. To be fair, I'm not very good at analyzing songs, so I'll just read a comment from under the song's lyric video that offers a great interpretation of this song. @3eater77 said, I see this song as a relationship between a parent and child. A child loves their parent unconditionally. A parent is supposed to love their child the same. But for whatever reasons, this sometimes is an abusive love. The parent has gone through life and their failures weigh on them. So in an effort to spare their child the same fate, they tell them they can't do it, don't try it, they aren't bright enough, and so on. The child listens because their parents' advice is all they know, and their parents love them, so they must be right. So they don't try, dimly reflecting their parents' apathy through life because they were told they had their own light, their own destiny. Through circumstances, they see their potential was always there, but hidden away, stolen and buried by their parents. And this song is them confronting the parent about the lies they were told all their life. Alright, this was a big part about the song, but since the song will stay for the major part of gameplay rooms after this, I feel like it was important to understand the meaning of the map. Furthermore, this song relates a lot to the theme and story of the map. Indeed, the action of showing one's path without letting them make a decision is very reminiscent of the Archangel's goal. After this quite lengthy explanation, let's continue playing the map. Before being able to encounter the creature once again, we find this weird looking binocular. which will actually give us a lot of information about the Archangel. Actually, it has a name and a gender. She is named Señor, which can be important for the rest of the map. Other than that, the binocular is reciting what Señor says. It's clearly indoctrinated by the Archangel. However, it questions its beliefs and thinks it deserves to fall into the pit with open eyes to repent, which doesn't seem like a good idea, but why not? Then we have another encounter with the weird binoculars. This time it claims that we are blessed by the Archangel's light, but Madeline points out that she has been left in darkness because Samuel was just mad at her. Right after that, we have our next encounter with the Archangel. She still insists that she, above anyone else, know better on how to guide people's life and that, therefore, she should be the one making every decision. Because she claims to know how it will go, she doesn't care whether or not people agree with her, she will do it. But when leaving the room, she says, "I will make sure to watch you die." From now on, a new gameplay element gets added. So let me introduce you to the Archangel Eyes. How they work is pretty simple. If you stay for too long in front of them, you will die. This choice of mechanic is very neat, especially right after what Samuel said. We are now getting to the last few rooms. There's nothing special apart from the difficulty. But now we reach our final encounter with the Archangel, our only hope for some answers. But right before that, Madeline gets the idea of convincing the Archangel to change in order to get the crystal heart. I will elaborate on that later. The creepy music from the beginning also comes back. Now it's time for our final encounter with Señor. And to start, she still goes on about the idea that she is right about her ideas. But she accidentally calls us Lily. Who is Lily? We don't know yet. In return, Madeline asks directly Señor about if she truly thought that what she says is true, and adds that everyone has different ideas of what perfect is, and thus she cannot know what everyone's perfect path can be. The Archangel becomes erratic and still insists that Madeline is wrong, but Madeline replies that everyone deserves to be able to choose how their lives go. She adds that Señor is a terrible guide and that she is basically useless. She then completely breaks down before flying away. And when continuing on our path, we learn more about this Lily. She is referred to as a path subject, and what we can understand is that Señor wanted them to become a doctor, but that Lily probably decided to go learn electrical engineering. And then we meet the Archangel again, for the last time, for real this time. This time she starts by showing us a vision of Madeline's past, and Madeline answering with what she actually wants to do. However, this time the Archangel finally admits that she doesn't know what will happen, and that she has no control over it. And finally we learn who Lily is, the Señor's child, but they left her, most likely because she tried to impose the past onto them. Señor finally comes back to reason. She wants to reconcile with her child as a human, which means she has probably been turned into an archangel by the crystal hearts, since she wants Madeline to take it so she could turn back to her human form. We then collect the crystal heart, named the Sun's Moon, a reference to the song The Moon Will Sing by the Cranewives, which was present in the map, as you may know, since you watched the video, right? Well, I didn't expect this map to be this full of information and sense. I know I said that last time, but it's truly impressive how much details you can find when actually looking into the map. So now, it's time for me to give a global analysis and my interpretation of the map. First off, the presence of an archangel indicates a religious theme, which was omnipresent in the map. I see this as an open commentary on religion in general, with a supernatural being forcing their ideology on people that might not want it, dictating their lives because someone thinks people don't and cannot know any better. If I take into accountability the previous maps of the series, we see that Madeline committed atrocious things such as stealing the water source of an entire people that was dying of thirst, or kidnapping someone to get information out of them. But all of that was done in hopes of collecting crystal hearts to save an Earth that was destroyed and be able to send people back to it. What I'm trying to say is that this map also opens for an ethical debate on how far we can go in the name of the greater good, which also goes back on religion. Is restraining people's life justified if it's for the best for everyone? Feel free to let me know what you think about that in the comments, but personally I believe that there's limit on how far we can go. For example, destroying a planet with living creatures inhabiting it to save another planet with living creatures inhabiting it. But we should take into accountability what the greater good is. For instance, we could ask ourselves whether what we are trying to achieve is possible or is it just a hope. For example, still relating with the map, is controlling people's life worth it if it's only to stick to an ideology? Or if it's to hope they can be quote-unquote saved someday? This question is still open to debate and I might have gone a little bit off track with this one. In conclusion, this map still managed to make me do a lot of reflection on the state of today's society and sensitive topics that one may not dare to talk or think about otherwise. Whilst it is not the most heaviest map in terms of topics, it doesn't make it nonetheless particularly uninteresting. And I loved researching on it and most importantly writing the script for it. It required a lot of reflection to understand it to its fullest. Or at least I hope I was able to give a satisfying interpretation of the map. This concludes this video. Even though most of you already laughed past that point, I would like to talk more about its creation. It's my first video, so I had to write an entire script and record my voice for the first time, and also learn editing entirely. The video is far from perfect, so feel free to leave suggestions and feedback. This way I can improve on my future videos. My main point of concern is my voice. It definitely changed all throughout the video as I was trying to really find a voice that suits me well. So tell me how you would prefer my voice to sound like. English is not my main language, so having a good accent is really hard for me, at least for now. I also got a new and better microphone during the recording of this video, and you probably noticed it was towards the end of Sky High Summit, which means I haven't been able to use it and decided not to redo the entire recording. So expect some improvements on that part in the future videos. There were also supposed to be 5 maps, but I dropped one because it was too long. The script was 70% done for this part, and it was already like 25 to 30, maybe even 40 minutes long, so I might make a standalone video for this one. As for the fifth map, I had a lot of trouble understanding the gameplay and message well, so I will need to take a lot more time to look at it and could also make a video about it later. I am also planning a part 2 of the darkest maps. It's still on RD, but I have selected 2 maps for it. If you have any suggestions of maps for me to talk about for that, feel free to leave those suggestions in the comments. My name is Strobe, and I hope to see you next time.